Destiny is an online-only first-person shooter video game developed by Bungie and published by Activision. It was released on September 9, 2014, for the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One consoles. Destiny marked Bungie's first new console franchise since the Halo series, and it is the first game in a 10-year agreement between Bungie and Activision. Set in a mythic science fiction world, the game features a multiplayer, shared world environment with elements of role-playing games. Activities in Destiny are divided among player versus environment and player versus player game types. In addition to normal story missions, PvE features 3-player strikes and 6-player raids. A free roam patrol mode is also available for each planet and features public events. PvP features deathmatch game modes, as well as objective-based modes. Players take on the role of a guardian, defenders of Earth's last safe city, simply called the Last City, as they wield a power called Light to protect the city from different alien races. The Guardians are tasked with reviving a celestial being called the Traveler, while journeying to different planets to investigate and destroy the alien threats before humanity is completely wiped out. Since launch, Bungie has released 3 expansion packs furthering the story, adding new content and missions, and new PvP modes. Year 1 of Destiny featured 2 expansions, The Dark Below in December 2014 and House of Wolves in May 2015. A third, larger expansion, The Taken King, was released in September 2015 and marks the beginning of Year 2, changing much of the core gameplay. In December 2015, Bungie announced that they have shifted to an event-based model. Limited-time events will happen more often instead of releasing a new expansion every few months. Upon its release, Destiny received mixed to positive reviews, with criticism centered mostly around the game's storyline and post-campaign content. The game was praised for maintaining lineage from the Halo franchise, particularly in regards to its competitive experiences. On day 1 of its release, it sold over $500 million at retail, making it the biggest new franchise launch of all time. It was GamesRadar's 2014 Game of the Year, and it received the BAFTA Award for Best Game at the 2014 British Academy Video Games Awards. Gameplay. Destiny's style has been described as a first-person shooter that incorporates role-playing and massively multiplayer online game elements. But Bungie has avoided defining Destiny as a traditional MMO game. Instead, the game has been referred to as a shared-world shooter, as it lacks many of the characteristics of a traditional MMO game. For instance, rather than players being able to communicate with all other players in the game or on a particular server, as is the case in many conventional MMO games, Destiny includes on-the-fly matchmaking that allows players to communicate only with other players with whom they are matched by the game. Time-limited events and modes are also occasionally added or featured in-game. Activities in Destiny are divided among player versus environment and player versus player missions across Earth, its moon, Venus, and Mars. Another PvE area, a massive ship called the Dreadnought that is situated in the rings of Saturn, was added with the Taken King DLC, but requires the purchase of the DLC. PvE story missions can be played either solo or as part of a fire team of up to 3 players. Players travel around the areas on foot or with their sparrows. Public events happen periodically and any player in the same location can participate. Strikes are cooperative missions played with a party of 3 players that culminate with a major boss. Players can play a much harder version of the strikes in what is called the weekly heroic and weekly nightfall strikes, which grants bonus rewards. While the weekly heroic strike is a playlist of strikes, the weekly nightfall strike, which is harder than the heroic, is only one strike that changes every week. The weekly strikes also feature game modifiers, such as disabled radar or jugular, where ammo does not drop for the weapon type equipped. Raids are advanced cooperative missions designed to be played by a team of 6 players. From social spaces, players can redeem engrams into items, buy items, and collect challenges known as bounties to complete during activities to earn experience, build their reputation among factions, and sometimes earn items. Beyond armor and weapons, items that players can obtain include ships that represent themselves during travel cutscenes, shaders for customizing the color scheme of their armor, emblems, emotes, and shells for their ghost, the player's AI companion. The Crucible contains playlists of PvP modes, including Control, Clash, Rumble, and Skirmish. New modes have been added via expansions, including Elimination and Rift. As of September 2015, players who do not own the Taken King expansion only have access to 3-on-3 and 6-on-6 Crucible playlists on previous maps with assorted modes, and no longer have access to playlists for individual modes. In Crucible modes, player statistics are balanced between players. Periodic events such as Ion Banner and Trials of Osiris are offered, which disable balancing, and allows players the chance to earn exclusive items. Character classes. Destiny features 3 character classes. After choosing a class, players select one of 3 species for their character: human, awoken, or exo. They can then customize their character by selecting its gender, skin color, and grooming the character. A character's species is only cosmetic and does not affect gameplay. Players can create 2 more characters to have a character of each class. Each class has their own specific upgrades, perks, special abilities, and 2 subclasses that allow the player to finely tune their individual characters to provide a different playstyle. The Taken King DLC added a 3rd subclass for each class, but requires the purchase of the DLC to access the new subclasses. Hunters are designed to be like a bounty hunter with a focus on agility and mobility. Its solar-based gunslinger subclass tree includes stat boosts that award accurate play, a throwing knife attack, the ability to upgrade to a triple jump, and the Golden Gun Super, a very powerful, flaming magnum with a base magazine of 3 shots. The arc-based Bladed Dancer subclass has a heavier focus on close combat, offering an extended range, blink strike, and an arc blade super with a temporary invisibility option. The Taken King added the void-based Night Stalker subclass that includes a bow-like super called Shadow Shot that tethers enemies together, limiting movement and preventing enemies from using abilities for a short time. Warlocks are designed as a mage, or a space wizard, with a larger focus on offensive abilities, recovery, and melee attacks that can reduce the cooldown time of its abilities. Its super in the Voidwalker subclass, Nova Bomb, is an explosively powerful sphere of void energy capable of being thrown in different ways. Its Sunsinger subclass features abilities based around the solar element, with the Radiance super allowing the player to temporarily improve their statistics, or revive themselves if killed. The Taken King added the arc-based Stormcaller subclass that includes the super Storm Trance, which produces lightning bolts that chains between enemies. Titans are designed to be tanks, with a focus on withstanding large amounts of damage to allow close-quarters combat. The Titan's super in the arc-based Striker subclass, Fist of Havoc, is a ground-slamming attack that destroys all enemies in its radius. Its Void-based Defender subclass offers the ability to generate a shield with its Sword of Dawn super. The shield can also provide temporary stat bonuses to other players that step within it. The Taken King added the Sunbreaker subclass, which features a solar-based super, the Hammer of Sol, creating a flaming hammer that can be thrown at enemies, or used for close-quarters combat. Weapons and armor. Players collect weapons and armor to improve their character's attack and defense. The higher the rarity of the item, the better the attack and defense will be of the weapon and armor, respectively, as well as better perks. Legendary and exotic items are the best items for players' characters. Although multiple of a rarity can be equipped, only one exotic weapon and one exotic armor can be equipped at one time. There are several different classes of weapons that are categorized as either a primary, special, or heavy weapon. Several weapons have an elemental damage type. There is arc, solar, and void. All damage types will deplete enemy shields of that type faster. The weapon will also do extra damage to enemies if the gameplay modifiers Arc Burn, Solar Burn, or Void Burn are active. The original maximum attack damage for legendary and exotic weapons was 300. This increased to 331 with the Dark Below DLC and 365 with the House of Wolves DLC. The Taken King DLC numerically changed weapons at 365 damage to 170, but with no loss in damage output. Newer weapons have higher numbers and can be upgraded by infusing other weapons into them to increase that number. There are 6 armor slots: helmet, gauntlets, chest, legs, class item, and artifact. Each class has armor specific to them with exotic armor that complement a character's subclass. Each piece of armor increases overall defense. Before the Taken King, class items were only cosmetic and did not have any stat or defense boosts. Class items now have defense that contributes to players' light level. Players' ghosts now also have defense that contributes to their light level. In addition to earning gear from loot drops by playing missions, players can purchase gear from faction vendors. Players can pledge their allegiance to one of 3 factions, Dead Orbit, Future War Cult, and New Monarchy, and earning enough reputation with a faction allows players to earn and purchase that faction's legendary items. Players also earn reputation with other vendors, such as the Vanguard and Crucible, by doing playlists or bounties for that vendor that also have their own set of legendary items. Prior to the Taken King DLC, all legendary and exotic armor, and some rare, contained a stack called Light. Once players reached level 20, they no longer earned experience to level up. Players could only go beyond level 20 by obtaining armor with Light. Levels above 20 were referred to as light levels, and one light level required 12 light. To reach the maximum light level, players had to obtain legendary or exotic armor. The initial light level cap was 30, which required 4 pieces of legendary armor, or 3 legendary and 1 exotic, with 30 light each. The light level cap increased to 32 with the Dark Below DLC and 34 with the House of Wolves DLC, respectively. Update Patch 2.0, released in preparation for the Taken King DLC, removed light for leveling up. Level 20 is no longer the experience level cap, meaning players continue to earn experience to level up to the new level cap. Level 34 for all players, level 40 for players who own the Taken King. Light is now a separate statistic, which is an average of the attack and defense of all equipped gear. A higher light level improves damage output and defense. The highest obtainable light level is 320 for players who own the Taken King.